Good evening, everyone. We are live. Tonight is the night with the doctors. I have two wonderful school counselors here with me tonight, Doctors Brianna Patterson and Dr. Marcy Herring, and we are here tonight to share about post-secondary exploration. I'm super excited to bring this session to our community and our families because we are in an initiative for post-secondary exploration to make sure that families are prepared to make their students have the best transition into their best future. That's what we do. We've been to several colleges at this point, HBCUs, universities, state colleges, because we are starting our little people and our not so little people early and helping them to make the decisions at this early age, so that they are prepared when they get to the point of post-secondary exploration. So I'm super excited about this. I want to eventually we'll get to that, but I'll have you all to introduce yourselves and share a little bit about yourselves, where you are, and then we'll hop into our questions. I'd like to introduce myself. I did not do that. My name is Dr. Nikki Anthony. I am the founder and the ED for Little Hands, Big Hearts, Little People's Service Organization, and I'm excited to have you all tonight. Our mission is the mission of Little Hands, Big Hearts, Little People's Service Organization is to develop little people into servant leaders who think beyond themselves for the greater good through explicit and intentional opportunities for character development, selfless service to others, and community-based volunteering. So our heart is to prepare the next generation of servant leaders, little people who will take the helm of leadership and be able to lead with everybody in mind. And we think that the programming that we do, the informational sessions that we bring to you all, is designed to help contribute to that end goal of those leaders, those servant leaders that we're developing. So with that said, the purpose of tonight, I already kind of shared, is to prepare the next generation of servant leaders, but also to prepare for post-secondary options that we have available. So we'll jump into that shortly. I would like to have Dr. Patterson and Dr. Herring to introduce themselves, share a little bit about where they're from. I think this dynamic is going to be really, really good tonight because we have two different states represented, two border states that are represented. And so the information will be kind of well-rounded that we share tonight. So we'll start with Dr. Herring and then go with Dr. Patterson.
Good evening. Good evening. It's such a pleasure to share this space with these two beautiful young ladies. I am Marcy Herring. I've been in education for about 15 years per se. School counseling is my passion. And we just had an off, side conversation before we started, and it was very enlightening because once you find your passion, it's such a blessing to be able to stay in that. And it's going to take a lot if we want to stay in it for 30 years per se. I work with high schoolers. That is my area of expertise. And again, I love what I do. I am located in Ashburn, Georgia, where I am the sole counselor at Turner County High School. My husband and I live in Tifton, Georgia. And I'm originally from Fitzgerald. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, I got family everywhere. My mom attended ABAC.
Really? Okay.
All right, Dr. Patterson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brianna Patterson, and I'm a high school counselor as well in Jacksonville, Florida. I am also the dual enrollment coordinator at our school, so I'm responsible for all things early college and any student who wants to take college classes when they're in high school. I'm also a professor at the University of North Florida, and I teach in the master's level school counseling program. So I'm very excited to train the next generation of school counselors, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight with all of you all.
Yay. So thank you both. I'm going to ask that as you join that you would share this broadcast with your communities, your circles, share, so we can get this information out to as many families as we can reach. So with that, we will jump into our questions. We have one question that was submitted, and so we'll start with that one, so I'll make sure I don't forget. But that question was, is the SAT and the ACT still relevant as far as post-secondary placement, college, universities is still relevant? And I believe the person had an 8th grade student. What would you recommend as far as that student taking the SAT and the ACT? Would they start with the PSAT, kind of share that from both states' point of view?
In Georgia, the PSAT is given to all 10th graders.
Okay.
So once he or she or any 10th grader reaches that grade level, the school counselor, and the administrators are responsible for getting all 10th graders tested. In every school that I've been in, which is 3, they test all 10th graders. The cost, so at some schools, the cost is $40. At some schools, the cost is $0. So it's just contingent upon where you are. As far as the colleges in Georgia still requiring the SAT, it is waived now, still under the COVID realm of whatever. But that's only applied to students with a 3.4 academic average or above.
Oh, wow.
They are exempt at this moment for the graduating class of 2025.
Wow. Okay. I'm trying to throw that. Dr. Patterson?
So in Florida, we are one of the few states that by and large have not gone test optional. So if you are looking to attend a Florida school, you should plan to take the PSAT, which is the practice SAT, and then either the SAT or the ACT, excuse me. So starting with the PSAT, which is the practice SAT, our students in Duval County, they are going to take that in middle school. I know 8th grade for sure. And then they take it 9th, 10th, and 11th grade.
Okay.
When they take it in 10th grade, if they have not met the graduation requirement for the Algebra 1 exam, they can use that test if they score high enough as a concordance score. So that's one of the reasons to take it really seriously. And then in 11th grade, if they score high enough, they could potentially be considered for a national merit, which is a national recognition award. So again, even though I know we test our students a lot and we tell them that every test is important, those are some of the benefits to taking the SAT seriously.
Gotcha.
When it comes to the SAT and the ACT, I would recommend students begin taking those exams in 11th grade. Once again, in Duval County, in 11th grade, all students will take the SAT school day for free. So whatever day that is typically a Wednesday in March. All they have to do is show up. If they're in school that day, they're going to take the exam. And then going forward, I recommend that each student take both the exams at least once. And then whichever one they do better on, that is the one that I would recommend that they keep taking. So it's kind of like with sports. If you're naturally inclined for football, you went and practice basketball to try to get better. You would keep honing in on your football skills. So it's the same thing with those tests. They measure different things. Most of us are not really aware of how we learn. We just kind of learn, but your test results will show where your strengths lie.
Right.
Really
And let me add, in Georgia, we do offer waiver fee vouchers. If your school is free and reduced lunch, you are eligible for one, but you have to contact your school counselor. And rule of thumb, like Dr. Patterson stated, you get 2. So I generally give one to as early as your junior year, and then you'll get your next one your senior year. And I also agree with her. Take both, whichever one you feel the best about. You repeat that one. You take it again, but utilize those vouchers. Explore whether or not you are eligible for those vouchers, because here the test is everywhere nationally, $90-something, 92, I can't remember, but again, contact your school counselor for the vouchers.
That's really good. And I want to just kind of hone in on a point we shared earlier as we were talking before we begin our broadcast. Part of the push for tonight is for parents and home to connect with the school and the school counselors. These are your counselors for a reason. So these are not your counselors, but you have a counselor for a reason as you move through high school, move through middle school. So get in the habit of meeting with your child's school counselors. Make sure you know what their grades are looking like. Make sure you're having conversations about what they want to do when they get out of school, so that your counselor sessions, when you have these sessions and these talks, your counselor can kind of give you direction, like, okay, you say that's the end goal and these are the grades now, it's not matching up, so we need to do something different. That's when we have these conversations, right? We don't want to get to the end and then all of a sudden, Dr. Patterson and I have worked together previously and, sat at meetings where, the expectation is that they go to college, they go to this, they do da, and they don't have the foundation for that end goal, right? So make sure that you're having these conversations ahead of time. I would also like to throw in organizationally, part of our cohort, which is our servant leadership development cohort, is that our students are given, we pay the fees for ACT and SAT if you are an active member. So that's only for active members who are in the Florida requirements, but those students who are active, we are willing to pay for your testing, your ACT and your SAT testing. I need to see results though. Like, you ain't just gonna show up and waste our money. We won't play that. So keep that in mind, but that's definitely an option for our students. So thank you both for that. I want to just kind of backpedal a little bit and from both states' perspectives, talk about what post-secondary options are. A lot of people think that upon graduation from high school, you have to go to college or you have to go to the military. Like, those are the only two options, right? And so we miss a whole interim of options that are available to our students. So can you both please talk about how many options are available? What are the main ones that people tend to miss between military and college? Because everyone's not college material. Everybody's not meant for the military. So in between there, what gets covered?
So I can start with this. When I think about it, I think about the 4 E's. So I think about education. That can be a traditional college, that can be started like a local community college. But that can also be like cosmetology school or welding or truck driving school to get your CDL license. Enlistment into the military or the reserves would be the second E. The third E would be employment. So going straight into the workforce right after high school. And then the fourth E, I think, is particularly relevant for this generation, which is entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. We have so many students coming out of high school that have really already found their passion. I have kids who they're already doing hair, they're already doing nails, they're already cutting hair, they already have their own clothing line. So that is now a viable option for our students as well, something that they can continue to pursue. With each of those pathways, I will say, as a high school counselor, I tell my students, the day one of high school, my plan is for you to have a plan when you leave here. Yes. From the time you enter, I'm already thinking about what we're going to do when you leave, because that 4 years goes by really fast. And, in ninth grade, that seems really young to start thinking about what you want to do after high school, but it's really not, because when you enter high school, all of these doors are open to you, but it's the decisions that you make in high school that can either keep those doors open or close those doors off to you.
Okay. Right. And I'll piggyback off of Dr. P's statement. Workforce is easily missed. Mm-hmm. We push education, we push armed forces. At Turner County High School, we have a lot of entrepreneurs. We have I have a junior, he bakes. And sell cupcakes and cookies, and it's very lucrative. My niece sells bonnets, hair bonnets. Okay, she delivers them. She's a senior at Fitzgerald High School. I have another student who designs T-shirts, but that's remarkable, and keep that up, because you can always fall back on that. But the workforce, it should not be frowned upon. I know a lot of students. Dr. A, they may not be yet ready for college. Yes. And they may need to, become more developed. Mm-hmm. I would say maybe a year, or could be some financial burdens. Yes. Whereas they may want to enter the workforce, not necessarily saying that college is a no-go, but it may just be postponed. Mm-hmm. And so there are other options students need to explore. And to me, it helps you develop more. If you, know offhand, okay, well, I didn't really excel, or my work ethic wasn't quite where it needed to be academically. Let me take some time to pause.
Mhm.
And if you are in that category, 4-year college, just go ahead and be, living your truth.
Yeah.
4 years may not be enough for me. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not for me.
Mhm.
If I knew I couldn't make it was a burden to make it through the 4 years
Yeah.
of high school.
Right.
Why am I wasting someone's time?
That's good.
Living your truth,
Yeah.
living your truth, talk to your family, talk to your counselor, talk to your teachers, talk to anybody in the school, and just, try to decide what best fits you.
Mhm. That's so good. I think another thing that gets missed often is like trade schools and tech
Correct.
schools. They get missed because a lot of our students don't learn, just like Dr. Patterson shared earlier, we have different learning styles. And so if my learning style is tactile, is hands-on,
Right.
and I don't learn in traditional way, like,
Correct.
sit and get basically, then my options are limited if I don't know that there's something else available to me. So even
Right.
considering at the community college level, like I know here in Jacksonville, FSCJ has the workforce development portion. They have trade technical schools, so at community colleges, it's not only academics per se, you also have those options. So I think exploring what your local community college, JUCO, whatever you want to call it, has, you'll probably find some options in there as well. Child development, child care, all that kind of thing, so
Right.
keeping those options open as well.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We got some comments. Oh, that's wonderful. Good evening, ladies. All right. So next question. How would we determine, well, we kind of talked about that one. What about funding sources for school? Or for whatever your options are. So we can.
Dr. A, do you mind if I go back? I wanted to highlight a program that we do use at Turner County High School. It's called U Science.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a wonderful CTAE director. Now, that will help students match their interests to their career choice. So take advantage of those type inventories. And that's just simply going to have a conversation with your CTAE director or your CTAE teachers or your counselor. Okay. I'm sorry. You
said
you want me to go ahead and go into the funding sources, or
you can. I want to make sure I'm trying to throw things in the chat. So you say U Science?
U Science, UYOU Science. And there are several career inventories, and that will help. A lot of my students find that helpful when they just have no idea, what they want to go into. So, and it will actually, you also have something in Georgia Futures that will match, utilize those programs. And Georgia Futures will go as far as matching the colleges to your interests. So try to take advantage of those.
So can I add for my students who may be in Florida or even another state, because we don't know where people are tuning in from.
Right.
We do College Board, which is the organization that has SAT, through their Big Future program. They have some of these same interest inventories that you can take that will also connect you to colleges with specific majors. You really have to be about yourself in high school, which I know is kind of counterintuitive because it's all about the group in high school. It's all about what my peers are doing. But like Dr. Herring said, you have to be true to yourself. So you have to really be honest with yourself. And if you don't know where you are or what you're passionate about, that's okay. We're not asking you all at 18 to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. I am a lot older than 18 and I don't even know what I want to do for the rest of my life, but I know what I care about at the moment. And I check in with myself often to make sure I'm still doing the things I care about. And as I develop new interests and passions, I'm still trying to tie those things to my work. So don't feel like you have to have it all figured out, but definitely take those interest inventories and truly take an interest in your future. You have to do your research. Like I tell my students, you all will get on TikTok and research everything else on social media and research everything else. If you want to be a nurse, get on TikTok and look up a day in the life of a nurse. Or the day in the life of insert whatever career, and really start researching those things and truly take an interest in your future.
I love that. So you kind of get them to use what they're already utilizing.
Correct.
Use social media, because TikTok is a wealth of information if you use it right. I think there's a disparity in how it is presented in China versus how it's presented here in the United States. There's so much foolishness on our version versus what it is in China. This is what research says. But there are some components of it that are very helpful if you get on the right algorithm. So make sure that you're using your social media to your benefit. I love that, Dr. Patterson. We do have a question. Florida scholarships outside of Bright Futures. So Dr. Herring, you can go with your funding sources if you like. I think Georgia has the Hope Scholarship, maybe.
Correct. Hope is available for students who graduate from high school with an academic GPA of a 3.0 or higher. And at this moment, the beauty of Hope is that they now pay 100%.
Wow.
And that's a blessing.
That's awesome.
Of course, when I say academic GPA, I am solely speaking of those classes that are your math, science, Englishes, and social studies, and your foreign languages. Of course, your electives does not fall under your academic GPA. Once you graduate with that, you would then, of course, have to maintain it all 4 years. But that is a blessing within itself because, again, it now pays 100%. Awesome. We also have the Zell Miller, which does the same as well. Zell Miller, a former governor of Georgia, that requirement is for those students graduating with a 3.7. So that you have two funding sources with a wide spectrum of your GPA. 3.0, which is give or take an 88, to or above, and a 3.7. So there's no excuse. That's wonderful. And then I want to throw out, I have a lot of students who parents may have been in the armed forces. Parents, please explore your GI Bill. Now, granted, I was confronted with a situation at my former high school. It was a tedious process, but the parents stayed on me. And hey, I would, if I were in her shoes, because at the end of the process, we made it where her daughter would get at least $1,600 every month.
Wow.
While she's a student full-time student at a college. So there are a plethora of resources. And so this is, again, that's eligible for any parent that is a veteran. So, yeah.
So good. Dr. Patterson, you want to talk about Bright Futures and anything outside of Bright Futures that's available?
Yes, so Bright Futures is the big merit-based scholarship in the state of Florida. There are two components of it. There's the academic component of it, and there's also what we call a CTE, or career and technical education component of it. And I'll let you all kind of do your research to determine which pathway is different for you, but it is merit-based, which means that you earn it based upon your performance. It's not tied in any way to your parents' financial status, which is great for many of our youth. The Florida Academic Scholarship and the Florida Medallion are two of the academic scholarships. Florida Academic Scholarship pays 100% of tuition, and Florida Medallion pays 75% in state. And then there are various awards for the CTE versions of the scholarship. For the students who may not qualify for that merit award, typically what I see is many students have the grades, they have the GPA, they also have the community service hours, but the test scores increase every single year, which can be very difficult for our students to obtain. So going back to testing early and often, definitely keep that in mind. But when you go to apply for the Bright Futures scholarships, which opens on October 1st of your student senior year, every year, that application is called the Florida Financial Aid application. And while Bright Futures is the one that a lot of school counselors talk about, when you apply for that, when you complete that application, you are not just applying for Bright Futures, you're applying for about 15 to 16 other state grants and scholarships. So by doing that single 15-minute application, or less, honestly, you will be considered for all of those scholarships based upon how you answer those questions. So those are the main sources of funding. But once again, we talked about being connected to your school counselor. I know as a school counselor, I maintain our scholarship newsletter. We have organizations emailing us at least once a week. Your local sororities and fraternities,
Okay.
banks, federal credit unions is the word I'm looking for. Credit unions, all kind of community organizations that are really and truly looking to give away money.
Yes.
And a lot of time that money goes unclaimed because the students, unfortunately, are just not willing to put in the work. So find out where your school houses those scholarships and make sure you really set aside dedicated time to apply for those scholarships. I know a lot of my students are like, oh, I don't want to write a 500-word essay. And I'm like, where else could you go and do? It probably takes you an hour to write that. Where else can you go and potentially make between $500 to $1,000 for an hour's worth of work? Nowhere. Most of us don't have jobs that lucrative. So put in the work and you will definitely be able to get some of those scholarships. A lot of those dollars really and truly do go unclaimed because students are not applying for them. So separate yourself from the pack and invest that time and energy into applying for those scholarships.
Yes.
Right. And just let me insert that the financial aid here for, I know, Georgia colleges, that will be accessible to all students starting in the month of December. And just like Dr. Patterson stated, the essay. Okay. Students, take time out, like she just stated, on a weekend. Write a really, really jam up essay. One. And change it and tailor it to whatever your other topics are.
So
but
good.
Come on now, y'all can get one out of yourselves. You know, one good one. You don't necessarily have to rewrite it, but just simply, and they usually ask for the same thing. Am I right, Dr. Patterson? Your goals, what your passion, name something that, you know, that you've done to give back toward the community. That you can go ahead and develop. And it probably takes, let's say, maybe no more than 5 hours over the weekend. And just like she previously stated, you will spend 5 hours on TikTok, 5 hours on Instagram, 5 hours on Facebook.
Right.
Parents, take the time out to take advantage of these scholarships here. Our local scholarships will start pouring out in the month of February. Now your national scholarships, like Dr. Patterson said, they started back in August. So just Google anything and you would be amazed. You can get scholarships for being 5'1", scholarships for being, anything for, I can't hear too well, or one of my eyes. I'm serious. It's just a matter of Googling it, researching it, but take time out every weekend, an hour or two. I'm going to look up some scholarships.
Yeah,
you'll see, the advantage of that.
And I feel like another thing, being mindful. So a lot of times kids try to go for the, this one is 10,000, this one is 75,000, this one is 85, million. I'm going for all of these, right? And so what we do, or what you do, is that you miss out on the small pockets of money that are probably more certain. Like you can get those smaller pockets of money. They have probably less requirements, but all of them add up. So if you get, $10, $500 scholarships,
absolutely,
that's going to add up, as opposed to going for that one, $1 million scholarship that is very competitive, and you're probably not going to get that one. So make sure that you're looking again locally. The sororities and the fraternities, if you are volunteering with them, if you're in like their junior programs, anywhere, even jobs that you might hold, some places have scholarships that are available if you are working. So just keep those things in mind as well. All right, Dr. Patterson, you want to jump in? You had something else?
Yes, I did want to say, when we're looking for the scholarships, think about your favorite retailers or your favorite restaurants. They probably all have scholarships. There's a Gates Millennium Scholarship, which is huge. Coca-Cola scholarship, a Chick-fil-A scholarship. Nike has a scholarship. So think about like the products that you consume and the companies that you support, Walmart, Target. Starbucks, many of those
Yes.
companies also
Yep.
have scholarships as well. So there are tons of scholarship search engines, but if you don't know where to start thinking of like some of those corporations in addition to some of those local businesses in your community. Many of them likely have scholarships.
I wanted to jump in and throw this in there. If you are writing that essay that Dr. Heron talked about, make sure you get someone to proof it. Make sure you get an editor. I feel like this generation is not privy to a lot of the written skills that our generation and before had. Everybody, I call it text talk. They
Yes.
write in text talk, am, da, 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 just like you're texting to someone. And so when you're trying to write an academic paper, especially if you're planning to go to college,
Right.
start now, please, 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 please start now. Make sure you get someone to edit. Make sure you get someone to go over your grammatics, all of that, so that you are presenting something that looks like you want to win.
Correct.
Please make sure.
Absolutely.
I think that's it for that. Dr. Patterson, we have a question. What platform were you applied for other scholarships that match to other scholarships?
So that is the question I don't know the answer to offhand.
Okay.
I'm sure it exists, but if you put your email in the chat, which I'm sure is what you're looking at, Dr. Anthony, if you put your email in the chat, I will research that and I'll get an answer for you.
Okay. So limbs are changing was the person. If you will throw your email, or you can email us, littlepeopleserving@gmail.com, and we'll get it to, she said you said it. I don't know if it was a scholarship that you said, or was it a financial, I think you said financial aid, a financial aid platform.
Okay. I see what she's saying. That was the Florida financial aid application.
Okay.
So if that's what you're referring to, when you apply for the Bright Future, it also automatically applies you for about 15 other grants or scholarships. So again, that is the Florida financial aid application.
Okay. I thought that's okay. So yes. So I put that in the chat. While we're on financial aid, talk about the FAFSA, because there are some changes that have recently come out. We want to do an informational session on FAFSA. It's not as daunting as it seems, but a lot of people get kind of tripped up on it. So is there anything that you all would recommend as far as FAFSA, which is the federal application for financial student aid? So just kind of talk about that. Either one of you could jump in about the recent changes that have come up.
I know the major change is that it used to be open in October, and now it's moved into December, and unfortunately it's like a secret top-notch. We don't even know the actual date that it's going to go live in December until December. But to prepare, go ahead and collect parents your tax information from the previous years that you will need to complete it. But Dr. Anthony and Dr. Patterson, I know what's very helpful for us in Georgia. We actually reach out to one of the representatives from Georgia Student Finance. They will come to your school free of charge and have a whole working session. And that is what we take advantage of here. We allow parents to come in, get on Chromebooks or laptops, and the Georgia Student Finance aid rep will literally stand over you and go item line by line. There will also be, and that's why I'm not abreast. I don't really give out any information because I don't want to give the wrong information. But what I do, I just utilize my person as the resource to come and actually speak to all parents and all students. And we try to do that twice a school year, one time in the fall semester, one or two times in the spring. Okay.
I would like to just kind of throw this in there. When I was transitioning from middle school to high school, just years ago, years. And FAFSA is free. So if you are contacted by people, we'll fill this out for $29.99 for $100. We'll make sure it gets accepted. Something's gonna happen with it. If they don't accept it, they tell you why. And then I don't even know if it's an acceptance, but if you need more information, they'll tell you why, right? So do not pay for anyone to complete your FAFSA for you because it's a free application. There are a myriad of resources available to you. Even if you go on the FAFSA.gov, if I'm not mistaken, you go on their website, you can inquire about how to get help for completing the application. So if you are contacted by a company, this is such and such educational services, this is what happened to my family, to myself and my dad, as I was transitioning. And so my dad ended up paying money, and it was not until like my first year that we found out, oh, you don't have to pay for this. Like there are either your school counselor can help you with high school, your college counselors can help you, financial counselors can help you in college. So just keep that in mind, that you're not paying for a service that is free to you. Keep that in mind. All right.
Absolutely.
I did want to add that for Florida students, I refer my students to their intended post-secondary institution. Mm-hmm. So if a student is interested in the University of Florida or FAMU, the admissions or the Office of Financial Aid at that school will be able to assist you. One, with completing the FAFSA, they can answer specific questions that you may have, but also interpreting the results, because the results that you get are very generic, and each institution does with that information what they will. So definitely reach out to the Office of Financial Aid at your interested institution, and especially if you have unique circumstances. I work in a Title I school, so all of my students are not necessarily living with their biological mom or dad. Some are being raised by grandparents. Some are in foster care. Some are living with a person that has no biological relation to them, but they haven't been formally adopted. There are a number of circumstances that may apply to you. So if you have that specific situation or a specific situation, definitely do not hesitate to ask the question. There is no need to feel any shame or embarrassment. We see this kind of thing every single year. There hasn't ever been a question that I've taken to the Office of Financial Aid that they haven't seen before, even if it is the most unique situation that I've seen before as a school counselor. So don't be afraid to ask that information. Also, with the FAFSA, I know it's tricky because it is opening later, but please remember that a lot of this money still is first come, first serve. So that means that if you wait until February to apply or to complete the FAFSA, and you could have qualified for certain grants, if that money has already been accounted for and given to students who applied earlier, you may not get it if the funds run out. And the last thing I want to say is for my families who feel like they don't have to complete the FAFSA because they make too much money. I want you to understand that regardless of your income, there are many institutions that will not award you scholarship dollars if you don't have a FAFSA on file. And that's because they have to account for whether that money was given to students who need it based upon need-based or based upon merit-based, like we talked about earlier. And if you haven't done your FAFSA, they don't know what category to put you in, so they can't account for those funds. So even if you think there's no way I'm going to get the Pell Grant, or, I make too much money, still go ahead and complete that FAFSA so that school has it on file for you.
Right. Let me throw in the situations that you were speaking of, Dr. Patterson. I had a lot of students where one of their parents were deceased. There is one part of the application that you only have to complete, and that's the beauty of the FAFSA. There's financial aid specifically designed for those type students. So she is absolutely correct with special situations. Also, I had a lot of students from my previous schools that were awarded to the state by no fault of their own. There is a whole program designed to pay for your studies, all 4 years, lodging, vehicles, transportation. Please, please, please go to your, I hope school counselors. I have a lot of friends who, Dr. Teamer, Marcia Teamer, I hope she's listening. She's in Atlanta. But just reach out to your counselor, reach out to us, because there was a group home in Thomasville, Georgia, and a lot of those students, frequent that group home, but they were under those specific circumstances. Yes, it's terrible, but there was a light at the end of their tunnel. You got your whole schooling paid for.
Thank you for tapping into that, because that was my next question. You actually, so Bree, can you talk about it, Dr. Patterson? I'm sorry, I know hers, Bree, but can you talk about it on the Florida side, that there is that availability for students who are caught up in the DCF system, who have been wards of the state, who've been, I guess, made wards of the state. So talk about that on our end as well.
It's exactly the same, and it kind of goes back to like really being transparent. Hopefully your school counselor is a trusted adult in your life. A lot of times we don't know all of that specific information unless you tell us or a guardian tells us, because we are not always enrolling students into the school. You know, when I get students, I don't see their parent contact information. The most I may get is a transcript. So unless someone tells me, I don't necessarily know how to advise them. We also have a Guardian Ad Litem scholarship program. So Guardian Ad Litem, that is a program that kind of assigns the advocate to students who maybe their parents' rights have been revoked, or again, they have been awarded to the state. There is literally a specific scholarship in addition to the other free money that Dr. Herring talked about for those students. So again, we get that information. We do try to publicize it to everyone, but it's helpful if we know our student specific circumstances, so that when that information comes into us, I can send that directly to my student who I know will qualify for it, versus sending out a generic email to, every student or every senior in the school. So again, going back to that connection with your school counselor, making sure that you're sharing that information with us so we truly know how to assist you, because that is ultimately our goal. We want to help you with whatever it is that you decide you want for your future.
Right. And even if you're apprehensive, sorry, Dr. Patterson, about meeting your counselors one-on-one, email us. I tried. Now, I'm not perfect. I know we all, three of us, let some emails kind of go into the next week. But I try to respond as best I possibly can to my students. A lot of them, are introverts. They may not necessarily want to come in, because I do have a bold personality, very, a little high at the top there. And so that kind of, scares some of my students, and that's understandable. And a lot of them email me. They then, ask me whatever they want, and I try to get back to them in a timely manner so their needs can be met. But you have to connect with us, like Dr. Patterson said. And I know there are bigger high schools. I'm at a small high school. I'm assuming Dr. Patterson is a bigger one, being that she's in Jacksonville. But if you have 10 counselors, listen, don't worry. That's not your concern. We are there for a reason. Hound us, come to us. We cannot help you unless you come to us.
Yeah. I think that brings up a point of learning how to self-advocate. That's something that I espouse every chance I get. Make sure that parents, you are teaching your students how to advocate for themselves. For students with disabilities, that becomes a part of your transitionary IEP at some point. Like, you have to learn how to talk for yourself, how to get things done for yourself. Like, all of that is a requirement. So start in middle school. For those middle school parents, start earlier than that. Start in elementary, because that's what I did with my babies when I was in the classroom. No, you're going to tell me what you need. Tell me why you need it. And it's as small as that, and it grows, but when they see that if I state my need, something's going to happen to get my need met, then they learn, to continue self-advocating. So definitely work on that. As we're going to transition a little bit, we have about 15 minutes. I knew this was going to be like a really rich discussion, and in y'all's wheelhouse, both of you talked about dual enrollment. So I want to get there as much as we can. But I also want to talk about vocational rehab for students with disabilities, students who have IEPs, 504s. So if we can tap into that really quickly, I think both of them have agreed to come back and join us later if we have time in our schedule to kind of if our schedules mesh up, to continue this conversation, because really the school counselor, you're meeting with your counselor throughout the year, right? So we want to provide a forum that allows families to meet with counselors, and I trust these ladies in their work. So to meet with counselors and to get questions answered, to make sure our timelines are in accordance with the things that we're trying to do. So if you're trying to get to college next year, then you're working towards that in a timely manner. So talk about VR. the vocational rehab program, talk about the evaluation, the assessment process. When does it begin? What are some of the benefits if you have a student with an IEP? How do you tap into that? Because I think a lot of people may not know that there could be free schooling available to their student with an IEP.
So I can start. Students with disabilities, specific students who have an IEP, you have an annual meeting, and hopefully parents, you are attending that meeting because it should be a team effort. It's your voice matters, your students' voice matters. So don't just leave that to the professionals in the building to make decisions about what's in the best interest of your child. Be a part of that as well. And there are so many ways to make it accessible. So if you can't come in person, ask them, can they schedule it virtually? Let's take advantage of this technology. Can you call in on the phone? But really, truly be an invested part of your child's educational experience in that way. Because a lot of times this information about Voc Rehab is discussed during those annual IEP meetings.
Yes.
And I know it's a lot of information, a lot of sign here, initial here, read this, but don't be afraid to slow down. I have very specific questions I came prepared with. Let's discuss those things.
Yes.
So in terms of Voc Rehab, it is really about making sure that your student with a disability has a structured plan to transition them out of high school and into whatever is next for them. So that could look like assisting them with applying to college. And once they transition to college, assisting with making sure that their IEP gets in the hands of the Office of Disabilities at the college so that their accommodations that they had that helped them be successful in high school, they can get those same things in college. It could look like helping them with job training and skills development if they're not interested in going into college, but more so into the workforce, or even independent living services to help them transition to living on their own, depending on the severity of their disability and how independent they are. It really truly just depends on what your students need. So don't be afraid to ask the questions and ask, hey, what services are available to my student that I may not know about? Because sometimes we're not always going to be, unfortunately, the information is not going to be always volunteered, is what I'm trying to say. So don't be afraid to ask those specific and direct questions to make sure, once again, for our high school students, from the time that they're entering, that we're already having them on a path to success for when they depart that high school.
So good.
Absolutely. And I like to add to Dr. Patterson's input. Please understand, parents, that you may have to get a reevaluation, but don't let that deter you. With my students with 504s, with IEPs like the Dr. A and Dr. P stated, they can follow you. However, let's say, for instance, if you've been granted or eligible for an IEP in elementary and it followed you throughout high school, or a 504 in the middle. So once you become 18, of course, your body is different. It has gone through several developmental periods and stages. So because of that, they may ask you to go through a reevaluation with your doctor, like Dr. Patterson stated. But it is up to you to self-advocate, what Dr. A has been stating all night. Self-advocate, self-advocate. Go to the college's the Office of Disability. It's a plethora of information there for you, and they'll guide you through it. They're not coming to you. They're not going to come to you. So either you have to have a representative in high school, like she stated, for your whole VA plan to do it for you, or you will have to do it for yourself. But do at least take advantage of it and explore, how it can be of assistance to you.
And if I'm remembering correctly, Bree, you can correct me, but the VR evaluation is separate from the district evaluation. And there is, VR does their own separate evaluation. And I think here it starts around 11th grade. So if you get to 12th grade and you want to access those benefits, but you haven't started in 11th, like you're not going to qualify. So be mindful of your timelines. Take advantage of getting an evaluation. It's not a bad thing. This is just showing your current functioning academically, intellectually, all of that. Like Dr. Heron stated, you've gone through so many changes, and most times, most districts, if they don't have to evaluate because you still need the services, they're going to push you through. And I won't say push you through, but that's the best way I know to explain. They're going to push you through every 3 years when it's re-eval time without another evaluation. So on paper, you look like the kid that got the evaluation in 4th grade, and your functioning is, it looks like the student who was in 4th grade, and you may have gained a billion skills since then. You know, your IQ might have gone up, all these different things, but on paper, you look like that kid back in, 2014. So
Absolutely.
make sure that you get this evaluation because it shows your current academic functioning, independent functioning, all of these what are different areas. It's 5 of them: communication, academic, what else, Bree? Independent functioning. I'm thinking about the IEP, but yeah, it shows all these different areas. So you want to make sure you have something current to present so that you can get the best services possible. That's another way of advocating for yourself. When you know what your evaluation says and they try to give you something that you don't need, no, let's go back to my evaluation that was done this year. That's not what I need. This is what the recommendations were. They always give recommendations. This is what my recommendations were. This is what I would like to have. This is why I need this. I need dictation in the classroom because I don't keep up with the pacing of whatever. I need note taking. I need a person to, all of these different accommodations are available to you. But if you don't have that evaluation, then it's going to be a little hard for you to advocate based on what they knew 10, 11 years ago. So keep that in mind. We're going to hold off on dual enrollment. I think that could be a separate session just because we have about 5 minutes left. And I know there were so many questions, but I know both of them advocate for dual enrollment. So if you want to just give a quick 1.5-minute snippet on dual enrollment versus AP versus honors.
That's right. Well, 1 minute.
Go ahead.
Absolutely no reason for any child to enter college, 2-year technical or 4-year, without 30 hours. It is free here in Georgia. 30. Students can go in college as a sophomore. No reason. Dr. P.
Boom.
Yes. So I am definitely biased. I know the conversation of dual enrollment versus AP comes up a lot. Dual enrollment, as long as you have the GPA and you meet the qualifying test scores, which you can, everyone can, you should be taking advantage of it. The biggest thing that I love about dual enrollment is it's not relegated to your performance on a single day like AP is. So for advanced placement, in order to get that college credit, you have to pass the exam. So if you are not a strong test taker, or if you have an off day, if you're not feeling well, you may be going through something in your personal life and you don't do well, it's not a lost credit because you still get that high school credit, but you don't get the college credit. Nope. Whereas with dual enrollment, as long as you pass that class, you're going to be awarded that college credit. Right. So you all can be thinking about dual enrollment from the time you enter high school in 9th grade. In Duval County, we begin preparing our students in 10th grade, unless they're in early college or, another specialized program. But definitely ask your school counselor what you can do and make sure you come into high school with a strong GPA and keep your GPA up so that you have that GPA necessary for dual enrollment. In Duval County is the 3.0 unweighted GPA that you need.
And to piggyback, in Georgia, you have to make a 3 or a 4 on that AP exam to exempt. I don't, talk against it, but like she stated, you go into the classroom of a dual enrollment class, you make an A or a B. I've never had any college deny a student of transferring that credit. I've had them ask or question about a C, but like she stated, there's no way around it. But also, this is what I want to leave you with. Please go contact the college that you want to attend, or most of them have the same core curriculum. Go down that line, take all those core classes.
Yes.
For FREE, 30 hours.
Come on. That's so good. So we talked about funding earlier. If funding is a concern for your post-secondary option, if you want to go to college, that's another way to reduce the cost of your college.
You're
And it goes
eliminating an
back
entire
to
year.
just being an adept student, being mindful, being very demure as a student, but
Cute.
being just a good student, staying on your P's and Q's and those are things that you're supposed to be doing anyhow, right? So be rewarded for that. Take those
Correct.
enrollment classes and get those credits so that you're knocking off a year, and a lot of students get to college in that first year. If they're not good in those particular classes, they have to take them again, you know. So you're taking a math course that you could have been, exempt from because of high school courses. You got to
Correct.
take it once or twice, or whatever. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking for ways to save and to be funded and all of those different things, all things work together for the good. I know it's a scripture, but it's so true just in life. All things work together if you're doing your part. So just keep that in mind.
Dr. Patterson, how many hours are free in Florida?
So it just depends on the program. For our early college students, they are going to graduate from high school with their associate's degree.
Wow.
And then I have students that can earn, who are not in that program, who can earn up to 2 years.
Okay.
But the other thing I wanted to say, aside from cost savings, is dual enrollment is so helpful because it bridges the gap between the rigor you experience in high school and the rigor that you're going to experience in college.
Absolutely.
And for many of our students, that first year of college is a culture shock if they have not done dual enrollment, because they have never experienced that level of rigor, even in their honors classes at high school. They just haven't had it before. So they feel like they can't do it. And that's not true. They just haven't been prepared to do that. So that is another benefit of doing dual enrollment, because you kind of get to experience what that rigor is like. You are more independent because the professor is not going to be hands-on in the same way that your high school teacher is going to be. And it just gives you an introduction to that while you're in a supportive environment. So I could talk about dual enrollment all day. I know we're out of time. But if you have any specific questions, especially
just let us
people
know.
who are in Duval County, don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'll leave my information and I'll support in any way I can.
Same, but it really bridges the gap. One of my nieces, she's going into college as a sophomore, and my sister and I were able to help her, transition, like this is different, sweetheart. This is not the same type of criteria or rigor as your high school classes. And to answer the honors class, there are no benefits for honors. So just skip on over that. You need to be either taking, on-level courses or dual enrollment or AP. And if APs, you have to make a 3 or a 4 on the end exam, as Dr. Patterson stated earlier.
So good. All right, y'all tell me your emails if people can get in contact with you, or if you would prefer they send them to me and I forward them to you.
That's fine.
Easier. Okay.
Either way.
Okay.
Yeah, I can give you mine for anyone who's on the call. If you're in Duval County, my email is Gainer, Gainer, B as in boy, the number 1 at duvalschools.org. So Gainer B1 at duvalschools.org. Please reach out to me. I have no issues with being a resource for you all. I look forward to the conversations to come.
And Dr. Anthony, I gave mine TANESC Smith 95 at gmail.com. Tanise Smith 95 at gmail.com. This was fun.
Yes,
probably got to come back with the whole session on dual enrollment, bless it, but it's some good information.
So we have a few comments. School counselor checking in from Ridgeview High School in Clay County. That's here in Florida. Great information. Thank you so much, ladies. The rigor for placement testing is different. So what advice do you have for students in regards to preparation for placement testing with dual enrollment? Those are 2 questions. Well, that's one question that came up.
So for Duval County, our students typically take the PERT. which is the post-secondary education readiness test. It has 3 components: reading, writing, and math. So if you go online, you can Google PERT study guide. There is one provided by the Florida Department of Education for free. And then if you want more in-depth study guides, you can look on Amazon. They have some available for purchase. But I also like for my students to use Khan Academy. You can use any kind of SAT or ACT prep on Khan Academy, and that will help you with passing that PERT test. And even though our students in Duval County, unless they're in early college, they can't take their first dual enrollment class until, second semester of 10th grade. From the time you enter high school, you can get on Khan Academy. You can start, preparing for the PERT test so that when it becomes available to you, you have more of a likelihood of passing the test on your first attempt. So again, PERT study guides online for free or through Amazon. If you're looking for a free resource, Khan Academy, just using your typical SAT, ACT prep, and it'll help you with passing that exam.
In Georgia, it's called the AccuPlacer. It's the same as Dr. Patterson, the same type test. There are study guides online through our local colleges, our technical colleges here, and our 2-year colleges. Also here in Georgia, you're exempt from any type of testing with an academic GPA of 2.8. So it's no excuse.
So good. You said AccuPlacer, ACA?
AccuPlacer, ACCU Placer.
Fix it. Hold on. Okay.
I'm gonna type it in.
I fixed it.
Okay.
Okay. All righty. So we have come to the end. Ladies, I think we have to talk a little more about dual enrollment because y'all didn't get to really dig in like y'all were ready to do. When does the PERT need to be taken to be eligible for dual enrollment?
So for Duval County, our students began taking it the second semester of 10th grade. That's the earliest they can take it. Again, if they are in early college, that's a very specialized program that they have to apply to in 8th grade if they want to go into high school in early college. And then my early college students, they began taking the PERT in 9th grade.
Okay. You said Duval County second semester in 10th grade, right?
Yes, for traditional dual enrollment students.
Okay. For traditional dual enrollment students. Okay. And they said in Taylor County, County, Florida, AccuPlacer is being used as well and offered as well. So thank you for sharing that. That's from Deidre Donnell. All right. I don't think we have any more questions. Yeah, we might have to come back. We'll see if y'all are available. I'm with it if y'all with it. We have great feedback. Pretty much thank you so much for great information from the community, our audience. Thank you. I want to say thank you both for your expertise, for sharing. I just want to highlight Dr. Patterson and Dr. Marcy, Dr. Herring. You can share any accolades, but I want to highlight because I've worked with her. This has been my friend for a while. Dr. Patterson was recently awarded for her work in school counselorship and the work she's doing with the university here. So I'm so proud of her and all that she's doing. She has hit the ground running as doctor, but she was just an excellent school counselor before she became doctor. So just wanted to highlight that. Dr. Herring, you have anything that you want to share as far as what you have going on?
No, just living life, trying to help somebody along the way.
That's right.
That's very church Sunday. Hallelujah.
Yeah. We love what we do.
Yes.
I see it in all of us. So that's a blessing.
Yes. All right. Well, if there's nothing more, Dr. Patterson, you have any final words?
No, just thank you for this opportunity. And once again, please do not hesitate to reach out if there's any way I can be of assistance. I would be glad to help you and connect you to other resources.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's to all of our community. Reach out. I did throw both of their emails in the chat. and those will still be there after the broadcast ends. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Make sure that you hit share so that this information can go out to all of your communities. Even though this is ending right now, the information is still available. And I think it's just pertinent, especially with all the changes that we've had in the last 2 weeks with what could possibly happen with our Department of Education and all this different stuff. So make sure that we are giving as much support as we can. And with that, we will call it a night. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Somebody laughing at my comment. I know. Y'all pray for my heart. Thank you, Lord. But y'all have a good night. We appreciate you for joining us.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.